Good morning. What's in the stars and the cards ahead for you this week? Welcome, welcome. We're going to do a deep dive into the energy of the week ahead, what's going on in the heavens, because it is an incredibly emotional week. There's a lot of feelings in the heavens. Many of the planets are in water, and it's creating this watery connection. And the element of water connects us to emotions, feelings, and intuition. So, as an empath, it is imperative that you're able to protect your energy this week, stay grounded, stay present, be able to discern your feelings, your desires, heart wants from the rest of the world. So, we're going to talk about how to do that, how to use the energy of this week, because this is very much an energetic weather report. Part of what I love to do is give you that insider advantage, a heads up of, hey, psst, this is the weather that's coming down the road. We can't control the weather, but when you know what's coming, you can prepare and it doesn't catch you blindsided or create extra chaos in your life because you weren't expecting it. So let's dive into this. As you hop on, give me a quick hello. And hello, Julie. Glad that you made it. Okay, so deep dive week, it is emotions, feelings, and grounding that is very important. What I do want to say is lean into the higher frequency or vibration of the water, because at times it might feel overwhelming and it might feel heavy. And there might be this sadness, kind of like with Eeyore, that settles on. This is going to pass. It's going to shift. But if the energy is heavy, rather than fight against the current of the waters, go with the current. They talk about if you're ever caught in a riptide, and I'm not an expert, by the way, so do your research. But, it's fascinating because the ocean's so powerful. And if we were to fight against that riptide, we'd get exhausted and it just wouldn't work. So what I've heard other experts recommend, because I'm not an expert on this, is to swim parallel to the shoreline. And so the idea is you're not fighting against the current, but you're figuring out a way to go with it. And this week, if emotions come up, one of the big things that I counsel all my empaths on, my students, my one-on-one clients, is to say, okay, rather than try to repress this or ignore it or stomp it down, if you can't process it in that moment because you've got to be professional, you've got to give a presentation, you've got to take care of a client or business or whatever the case might be, allow that energy and emotion to bubble up from your tummy. Now, of course, you've grounded first. Always ground first. And I'll give you a technique for that. But allow the emotion to bubble up from tummy and heart and up through the throat. And you can release it like a sigh, or even a burp if you're good at burping. And as you release it, you can either process it quickly in that way, or if it's too big, you can say, angels, can you please hold on to this for me so that when the appropriate time comes along, and I trust that you know the appropriate time, hand it back to me so that I can process it and work with it. Yeah. Hello. Hi with Kia. Great to have you. Fantastic. I'm so glad to have you. Wonderful. Okay. So place your hand on your heart. I want to pull a card to break through just the most important energy or guidance that you need to hear right now in this moment. So with hand on the heart, I'm just asking, as I get ready for this week ahead, what's the most important thing that I need to know? And as I shuffle the cards, I see who pops out. Oops, they're really popping out. I love it because we have the High Priestess. The High Priestess is a card that says, I know the answer, I have the answer, but I'm not going to share it with you. And part of the reason that she's not sharing the information with us is because, have you ever been in that moment where somebody's tried to give you good advice, but you're just like, whatever, I've got to do this. We just can't receive it because we need to try it. We need to live through it and experience it first. She knows that. And she says it's going to mean more coming from you. So it's important this week that you take time to unplug and sit in the quiet, away from the noise, away from the distractions. And when you do that, you'll be able to find the answers you've been searching for. They're not outside yourself. I do believe we have a direct connection to the divine through our heart. And when we pause and we turn inward through meditation, whether it's a moving meditation like going for a walk or dancing or sitting in a dark room, that enables you to have the insight that you're searching for. Okay. So, by the way, if we haven't met, my name is Irina Miller. I'm an astrologer, a spiritual life guide, what I call an energy alchemist. And it is my joy to share the sacred practices and tools with curious empathic seekers like yourself that enable you to step into the life that you were born to live. So I am so happy you're here. And if this is something that resonates with you, please do make sure you like, you subscribe, share this with a friend. It helps out so much. And that way, when I go live, you'll get the notification. And hopefully these little tips are able to make your week a little bit brighter and a little bit easier. Okay, so the overarching energy of this week ahead, we are moving in towards a new moon in Scorpio. So my Moon Club members, Thursday, we have our gathering. I'm very excited for this new moon in Scorpio because it is like the high priestess. It's this deep connection where we can root ourselves in the truth of our heart. The Scorpio energy enables us to connect with the truth that's been hidden. It brings things to the surface for revelation. And with Mercury retrograde right now, so hey, by the way, remember Mercury's retrograde. So back up all the data, double check communications, and of course dates and the like, just because sometimes things go a little sideways when Mercury's retrograde. But when you are in this week, by having that ability to connect with the deep truth that the Scorpio New Moon comes up and shares with you, it can be a great week of healing. We just need to make sure that as an empath, we're not overwhelmed, that we protect our energy. And one of the ways that I love to do this is that root flush fill. I'm going to talk us through it really quickly. And I have a 2-minute audio file that you can download if you go to irinamiller.co/get calm. And when you go there, you can, and I'll just put that up on the screen, access this. But bring your awareness into your heart space. And this is great practice because there's a lot of distractions out there in the world that can pull us off center. And when you come back to your heart, it reminds you of who you are and it reminds you of the journey that you're on so that the decisions you make, you don't look back and wonder, why did I do that? I wasn't even in my right mind. So imagine a color in your heart or a word or a sound and take a deep breath. And then visualize a beautiful beam of light coming from the center of the heavens down through the crown of the head, the throat, the heart, down through solar plexus, down through lower belly, down between the legs and through 6 layers of earth, through topsoil, subsoil, a layer of granite, down through a layer of fire, crystals, and then to the very heartbeat of Mother Earth. And start to feel the energy shift. So the distractions might still be around, but they're not pulling you from center quite as easily. And anything that's in your auric field, your personal bubble space, flush to the earth to be recycled into something of great beauty. And breathe. Deep belly breath. And imagine standing out in the sunshine. And as the sun is just shining and showering beautiful rays of golden light all around you, fill up with that golden light. And take a deep breath. Beautiful. Can you feel that difference? Yeah. Hello, Hannah. So great that you made it. Hello, Ben. Great to have you here as well. Hello, Mr. Pipey. Great to have you. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit more about this week ahead. So we have that new moon on Thursday. We also have the sun going into Sagittarius on Thursday. So happy birthday to all of our Sagittarian friends out there. If you are a Sagittarius, make sure, let us know in the comments. That way we can wish you a happy birthday. But this week is a week to really strengthen your intuitive and energetic muscles and reclaim your sensitivity as a superpower rather than feeling overwhelmed by it. Remember that as an empath, you can really thrive when you're grounded, like the practice we just did, when you hydrate. So important to make sure you're drinking your water, getting your electrolytes as a empath, because when you are working with energy, energy runs much more smoothly, that current through water. So watch and make sure you stay hydrated, grounded this week, and really connected to your truth so that the noise of the others can fade away. And then the emotion of the week, you can become a little bit more of an observer with it. And rather than feeling like you're being carried with the waves, ultimately take time to slow down so that you can hear your intuition. That's what the High Priestess card is trying to share. The guidance is there, the intuitive guidance, the answers that you're seeking. To hear it, though, you need to slow down and release the noise of the world. That's the way I want to say it. I almost said drowned out, which I guess with this energy might be one way to think of it. Because we are going towards that new moon in Scorpio on Thursday, the moon is waning. So it's getting darker and darker. And as the moon gets darker, you might find that your energy levels start to also lower. And you might not be quite as energetic as you are at approaching a full moon. So any of my moon sensitives out there who are sensitive to the shifts in the moon, with that, especially the first 2 or 3 days before the new moon, and really we're getting into that window now, it's a highly intuitive and spiritual time. Great for meditating, great for journaling. Mercury does a great big hug and a kiss with the sun on Thursday, which basically it's called cazimi, the astrology term. And all that means is that there's great opportunities for clarity in this week too. To connect with the clarity though, and have those intuitive be able to receive and interpret the downloads in a very clear-headed way, it's important that we take time to ground and unplug from the noise, especially if we're feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Remember, it's not a week to push through it and force. Think about that analogy of the water. If you're fighting against the current, you're going to get exhausted. Find a way to go with it, to work with the flow of the energy so that the Scorpio new moon can help the truth rise to the surface. It's beautiful how the Scorpio energy can reveal the truths. And in order to be able to hear it and not get thrown by it, we need to ground. Okay, let's go day by day. Monday, as we kick off, the moon is in Libra, and we are in a void moon, of course, and it lasts until about 4:44 p.m. Eastern time, so you can adjust for your time zone. But what that means is that you don't want to start anything brand new this Monday, and at the beginning of a week, it can sometimes be hard not to kick off new things, start new projects. What I would encourage you to do, what the moon void, of course, is really good for, is wrapping things up. Maybe there are phone calls you have to return, follow-ups that need to be done. Another great thing when the moon void, of course, is going on, and all that means is that the moon isn't talking to any other planets in the sky. She's just hanging out and floating. She's flowing with the go, or going with the flow. And the implication is, so should you, although it's Monday and we have to work, many of us. So we find a way to I'm going to get into the rhythm, but I'm not going to force things. I'm not going to push things. I'm not going to sign new contracts or make great big purchases. I'm going to wrap things up instead. It's a reflective time, great for journaling. So maybe, today, Monday, until 4:44 p.m. Eastern, you say, okay, I want to plan my week ahead, or, kind of just reflect and meditate on this year, figure out how I want to finish the year strong, maybe reflect on 2026, how to prepare for that. Think of utilizing the energy in that way. And then once we pass that hour, then you can initiate things, brand new things, sign the contracts and the like. But the moon in Libra that we kick off with, it's a very harmonious and balanced energy. And you can use that reflective time with the moon void, of course, to say, how can I restore harmony to my world? Maybe I need to beautify my surroundings. Maybe I need to clear things up so that it feels more aesthetically pleasing. And when you do that, things will shift. Okay, let's go ahead and pull a card to just ask how you can make the most of Monday's energy. And I see who really likes to pop out. 4 of Pentacles. What are you holding on to too tightly? Where is your spirit maybe how do I want to say this? Saving for that rainy day so much that you're missing the opportunities. It reminds me of that old phrase, what is it? Penny wise, pound foolish. There are times where we can scrimp and save, and then we get really silly. This is saying you have been doing an incredible job of creating stability. But are there areas that you've been holding on too tightly that are inhibiting you from growth and from joy? Part of today, as I just kind of look back at my notes, the sun, your identity, your willpower is having this conversation with the planet of blessings and abundance and prosperity, Jupiter, and as well with the planet of be realistic, be down to earth, Saturn. And so when you utilize that void moon, of course, to kind of daydream and forecast and reflect and plan, you might really have that chance to reflect on the blessings, all the good things that happened this year, or even going forward, the opportunities and doors that are opening to you. Say, okay, well, how can I be disciplined about this to accept these blessings in my life in such a way that I prosper? So kind of feel into that. It's kind of exciting. Hello, Shannon. Great that you could make it. Okay, so let's talk about Tuesday. Tuesday, the moon is officially in Scorpio. Scorpio moon can be a little intense and heavy at times. They're very laser focused and they can do deep dive research, the Scorpio energy. Great, strong, fixed sign. And so with that Scorpio moon, you might find, okay, great, I've got that energy I can lean into to do deep dive research work or great intensity or maybe deep meditation. We're in that dark of the moon before, the quiet before we have the new moon. It's called the balsamic phase. And when you're in that space, very, very fertile and potent time to connect with your intuition and with guidance. So take some time on Tuesday to give yourself the opportunity to realize there's a doorway opening to go deeper into connection with yourself, with your intuition. Maybe you've been working with spirit guides and you want to strengthen that or strengthen your intuitive gifts. Mercury is also, it's still in retrograde, but it's moving from that energy of Sagittarius, which is a little more playful and adventure seeking, into the deep dive Scorpio. Like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to get to the truth. This can be a great healing opportunity. When I studied tapping, also known as EFT, emotional freedom technique, a lot of times the teacher I studied with, she would say, what's the upside of whatever habit or behavior or thought that you're carrying and maybe you feel is not so helpful? What's the upside of it? Like, what's the upside of procrastinating on this? Or what's the upside of ignoring the feeling and trying to push through it? And there are genuine upsides, like the upside of maybe not presenting something. Well, then you don't have to be judged on it. Like, if you never publish that book, the critics will never be able to review it. If you never go for that promotion, you never have to hear no, or, stretch beyond the comfort zone and take that risk and say, oh, will I be able to grow and live up to this or step into this? So pause, I would encourage you on Tuesday and ask, well, what's the upside of some of these habits or patterns that maybe you've been carrying? And that truth can come to the surface. And sometimes when we see that and we finally realize, wow, well, I was trying to protect myself, we can take other measures to create that protection and do the deeper healing work. So journal, meditate, move your body if you need to. Take a nice, beautiful bath. It's Scorpio energy, which is also a water sign. Lots of water this week. So hydrate, but don't overhydrate. Okay, how to make the most of that energy with Scorpio on Tuesday. Something is coming to completion. This is a graduation card, the world. So what story is coming to completion? Take a moment to reflect on your successes, how far you've come. Where do you want to go? The new seed of the story is getting ready to be planted with that new moon on Thursday. I say that because behind the beautiful woman here is a wonderful sacred geometric shape of the seed of life. It's part of the flower of life at the very center. And from here, all life springs. And I think of it like the acorn. The acorn has the whole energetic code and blueprint for the big oak tree. And so here, she's fulfilled the story that sacred geometric code has held. But now we're getting ready for the next one. So think about what wishes you want to make with the new moon in Scorpio. Okay, we move into Wednesday's energy. Wednesday, we still have that Scorpio moon, but we also have some other things happening in the sky above. Mercury, that planet of communication, the way you're thinking, is trying to find some balance with new insights, with breakthroughs, with eurekas. So the deep dive work you did on Tuesday, Wednesday, there might be a revelation around that, like, oh my gosh, a great aha breakthrough moment, flashes of insight. Pay attention to that. Don't just brush it off like, oh, I'm making it up. I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Oh, because sometimes when we're in the moment with intuition, it hits us and we're like, oh my God, I had this dream. And then it sort of came true. Like, I can't believe it. My daughter had a dream the other night and it unfolded, not exactly like her dream, but very similar. And I feel like it was a warning dream. And it was a warning dream about a friendship that she has. And, she still was kind of a little rocked when the truth came to the surface and was revealed. But in some ways, spirit was preparing her for it, so that even if it just stays in our subconscious, it might almost feel like a deja vu moment, or we don't get quite as thrown. It's very interesting. Do you ever have dreams that come true, or premonition dreams or warning dreams? Very, very interesting. My mom used to get them all the time. It's fascinating. Dreams show up for me in different ways, but I had a dream too last week, and I find myself brushing it off this week. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe it was just fanciful. But that's what happens. The farther we get away from the intuitive hit, we can dialogue and we can talk ourselves out of it. So we have to watch that as empaths and protect our intuitive messages that we receive, protect the energy. That's why it's great to write it down in the moment, capture the feeling, so that if you do dialogue and create a story around it, you can go back to the initial feeling of it and say, wow, this is what I was feeling when it hit. Because other people's ideas can filter in their beliefs, whether it's because you shared your dream with someone and they're like, oh, that's impossible, or, oh, you were just making it, oh, you were just thinking about your mom, or whatever. But it's so important as an empath to remain grounded so we can practice good discernment and really sift through what is truth versus something trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Shannon, you said occasionally you have dreams like that. Yeah. Oh, I get chills. So yeah, just take note of it. It's very fascinating. You can always ask too before you go to bed at night. You can write it down. If you want, if you have questions, or ask your angels, like, please help me find a solution on this, or go straight to God always. I just have such a strong connection with the angels. I'd like to, I'm always working with them. All right. So also on Wednesday, the planet of communication and thought, good old Mercury, is working really well with Neptune, the planet of intuition and dreams. So Wednesday might be a day I'd say, hey, pay attention to your dreams, either as you wake up in the Wednesday morning wee hours, or, from that Wednesday night to Thursday. Let me pull a card for Wednesday. Highly intuitive, great day for downloads, sudden clarity, in a beautiful way. So we're going to just ask what's most important that you need to know about Wednesday's energy. Ooh, and I got the King of Wands upside down. This is what's so cool. Scorpio moon has a tendency to be a little compulsive. And when somebody told me that once, an astrologer mentioned that, I was like, oh, that sounds so terrible. But when I started to feel into the Scorpio moon energy, because I was a little offended when she said that. I'm not a Scorpio moon, but I have Scorpio placements, and she was calling me compulsive. I was a little offended. But when I took a deep look at myself, I realized, wow, well, sometimes something really takes hold in my heart and mind, and I feel compelled. I feel this urgency to almost kind of fixate on it until I make the purchase, or I do the thing, or I build the website. And it almost sometimes seems silly looking back. So the King of Wands upside down, it's a fire energy. He's that energy of like entrepreneurial, just go for it, do it, like act now, think later. And him being reversed is saying, okay, let's look before you leap. let's take a moment. You might feel that great sense of urgency and that compulsion of like, I've got to do this now. Maybe you're becoming fixated on something like cleaning out the bottom of the, a vacuum. It could be something as mundane as that, or it could be something a little more intense, where you're thinking back on a conversation or an event with someone. You're like, I can't let it go. What I'm going to invite you to do is claim your power back. So beautiful practice I love to teach to my empathic clients one-on-one. I share it with you here is you're grounded. So you have that column of light that runs through you. You flush the other people's energy out of your space, fill up with the golden light. That's kind of like the quick down and dirty, like, do you? Okay, root, flush, fill. Once you're grounded like that, imagine golden ball of light over the crown of your head. It's your ninth chakra, the ninth energy center. And it's going to act like a filter. And with intention and imagination, again, once you're grounded, you call your spirit back home to you, your energy. You bring it in through that golden sun, down through the crown, down the throat, and into your heart space. And when you do that, you're claiming sovereignty in your space. You're calling your energy back to you. It could just be that your thoughts, you're thinking about this person, you're thinking about that project. Oh, I've got to call the doctor. I need to follow up with the vet. I need to pay that bill. We become scattered and we become more easily susceptible to manipulation or fear even, or that feeling like, I got to do it now. I got to do it now. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and just pause before you take action. Stay open for the insights and the guidance, but don't feel like you've got to rush into it. Very interesting. And that's why I love doing this, what I call moon mapping, is that you are taking time to feel into the rhythms of the moon and figure out how it affects you specifically, because everybody will feel it a little differently. And every moon in Scorpio that we experience throughout our lifetime is a little different because it's more than just the moon. She's having conversations with all these other planets in the sky. The skies are having conversations. In astrology, we call that aspects, the technical term. And that affects the flavor and the way that the moon presents. But there is an underlying feeling sensation to it. So you start to track and you're like, wow, now I see the pattern with that moon in Scorpio and I can recognize it. And at least I can be conscious if I choose to engage with like that deep fixation. And, we can utilize that for good. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Maybe we have to clean out a closet or, go through deep work. I think about back in my coding days where you'd have to go like line by line by line to look for the bug. And that could be a pain, but I could definitely sit there and just do it. There was ways you could harness that energy. Okay, so Thursday. Thursday is the new moon in Scorpio. So a rebirth from the inside out. The other cool thing about Scorpio or scorpionic energy is that it is the energy of rebirth, of rising from the ashes. So if there are areas, especially with the deep emotional healing and cleansing and purging that's happening this week, these deep dives, you might find like, when will this, like, the light come? When will the good break come, the opening? That Scorpio new moon is saying, where do you want to go? Instead of continuing these old patterns, these old habits, you can lean into the new moon energy to plant an intention or a wish. What do you want in your life? I want in my life to have good energetic boundaries so I can still be loving and open and supportive to the people that cross my path. I want to be able to connect and see the truth so that I can really understand the motives of those people around me. So when you make the new moon wishes, and this is what I do with the Moon Club members, we go into the specific energy of each new moon and full moon. So new moon in Scorpio, we're making new moon in Scorpio-like wishes because that's the energy that's most potent. Thursday is also the day where Mercury and the sun kiss. It's that Cazimi energy where Mercury goes into the heart of the sun. So great clarity, great for intuitive downloads. Keep your journal with you all week long. If you don't have a journal, get a journal. I have my digital moon journal available that helps you track the moon. I haven't shared that in a while, so I'll go ahead and share it now. irenamiller.co/journal. Oops. And I'll share that if my mouse wants to work. And you can check it out. But with that, you can utilize that to track the moon, your emotions, your feelings, as well as engage with the cards and pull a card on how to make the most of it. So let's do that. We're going to pull a card for Thursday. How can you make the most of Thursday's new moon energy? And we'll see who comes up. 10 of Cups. So the 10 of Cups is, and I'm going to say, how good can you stand it? This is a feeling of fullness. Your cup is full. Your heart is just connected to joy. You're surrounded by your family, your loved ones, and you're at ease. You feel safe. So when you make your new moon wishes, what can you do in order to, how do I want to say, create that feeling of safety and of love? What are you seeking and searching? And embody that energy. Because when we embody that energy, we can attract it and magnetize it more and more in our world. Okay, Friday. Friday, the moon moves into Sagittarius, and it's going to start to feel lighter. That Sagittarian moon is a fire energy, and they're playful. They want to get outside. They want to go on an adventure. And they also are looking for the truth. But the way that they do it is definitely not as heavy and intense as a Scorpio energy. So it can become more optimistic. You're going to feel the weightiness start to lift. So that's one of the clearings in this week. I'm going to just ask, how can you make the most of that energy? Knight of Swords. So you might need to go out for a ride. Hop on your vehicle of choice, whether it's a motorbike or getting in your car, feeling the wind through your hair. But if the Knight of Swords, I could be considered an adventure seeker. I sometimes see it as the running to the rescue, like definitely a leaping before you look card, but you just might be seeking that freedom because the week has felt so heavy and intense with all that water. The Knight of Swords represents the element of air. So it's like, okay, I just need to, well, finally, that weighty water is getting off my back. I just want to be able to move. I want to be able to feel the breath, the air in my lungs. So you might just want to get out and move and go on a little adventure. And maybe it's a local adventure. You say, okay, getting ready for the weekend, Thanksgiving's coming up here in the US. Maybe you just want to get out with friends and, walk outside or go to a holiday festival type thing. Hey, if you're in the Cincinnati area, the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo is this weekend. I will have a booth 312. Come say hello to me. I'd love to see you. If you want more information on that, then just drop a little, we'll say a star emoji so that I can kind of distinguish between the stars. But that's a fun time for me to be able to connect with you in person, one-on-one. And I do that twice a year at the Body, Mind, Spirit Expo here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Okay, so which day? I'm jumping ahead. Saturday. Saturday, the moon is still in Sagittarius. It's that feeling of saying yes to growth and expansion. This is that opportunity to dream bigger. What inspires you? The work that you did this week, the healing work, the paying attention to the feelings that were coming up. Reconnect back with your joy. What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? And you might have to play with that a little bit. There's a game that one of my teachers used to have us play, and it's called the I Love game. And you play it with someone else, and you go back and forth, and you just tune into, like, what do you love? Like, oh, I love the bright red leaves against the dark coniferous pine trees. I love the fog that can sometimes happen in our neck of the woods with the Ohio River coming up in the mornings. I love fuzzy warm slippers, and I love hot cups of tea. And you just go back and forth with your friends, and what you're doing is you're building up the energy, and it can really lift you out of the heaviness of the week. So pulling a card for Saturday, how can you make the most of Saturday's energy? Bum, bum, bum. Interesting. So the Three of Swords, which looks like a very intense and scary card, but this is representing the emotional healing. So the work that you do this week, if you don't, let me put it this way, if you can connect with the courage to do the deep heart healing, by Saturday, those heart wounds have a chance to let the light in. It's kind of like that saying of where the cracks are, that's where the light shines in. It's like a Rumi quote. And so I pull another card of where does the energy go from there? And I always think with this card, the circle that she creates with her wand, the circle of fire. Circles represent healing in alchemical traditions and pathways. And it represents community. Remember that you don't have to go this alone, this journey of life. You're never alone. Hopefully you feel your human community around you, friends, family, and always, and let me just say the community here too. That's why I love gathering live every Monday, 9:30. We come together in community. So we have each other. We know that we're not the only empaths walking through this world, sensitive to the moon and affected by the ups and downs. We come together to practice these sacred techniques and to become stronger with our energetic boundaries so that we can continue to be loving and who we are in this world and not become bitter or frustrated. In addition to the physical human community, you have friends in high places. You always have angels around you. I 100% believe that. I believe we all have at least 2 guardian angels around us. I guess we'll find out when we get to the other side of, that's truth, and you can feel into it if it resonates with you. But for me, that's felt like truth. And then at times we have a lot more than that. And we can always ask for more. Guardian angels, please watch over me. Please protect me. And you always have God. The universe has your back, so to speak. Whatever that higher power goes by, you have free will. So God and the angels aren't going to intervene unless you ask. That's a gift we've been given, free will. That's why with these energy weather reports, we don't have to look at it and be like, oh no, it's going to be an emotional week. Oh God, this is the worst. We're just like, okay, no, it's an emotional week. I can't change that, but I can change how I engage with it or react to it. And how I'm going to make space to process my feelings. I'm going to have some quiet time. Maybe I'm not going out in the world as much until the weekend. Moon goes into Sagittarius, start to play, but we're aware and we can heal. So don't shy away from the heartaches. Not easy to go through it by any means, but having witnesses, community, sacred space like this makes a big difference. Okay, Sunday, the moon's in Capricorn. I think this might feel so yummy too, because the Capricorn energy really knows how to kind of put emotion in its place. I love the Capricorn moon because, and I have a really good Capricorn moon friend, they're fantastic because they're great visionaries. And myself as a Cancer moon, we can be so affected by the emotions that it's hard to see the forest for the trees and find the solutions and figure out a way out of the deep emotion. And Capricorns are like, okay, listen, the crying and the overwhelm, that's not going to help us here. It's not going to, find the solution. Let's just put the emotion over here for a moment and let's create a plan to help us get to where we want to go. And I always think about that phrase from A League of Their Own where Tom Hanks' character says, there's no crying in baseball. And I love it because it just reminds me, okay, wait a second. There's another card too in the tarot deck that a teacher of mine had a saying for. It's the 5 of Cups, where you have this figure who's standing, this head is down, and there are cups that are knocked over, and it's like crying over spilled milk. But in the distance, there's this bridge and a great opportunity, a big, beautiful castle. And my teacher would describe that card as cry a river, build a bridge, and get over it. And I'm like, that's a Capricorn moon. I just be crying. So much fun. Shannon, you have a Capricorn moon. Awesome. I love it. Thank God you're here. You can help us out. Bring in your great Capricorn energy. So that Sunday Capricorn moon, very grounding day. It helps you to integrate the deep emotional wildness of the week. But again, it doesn't have to be too heavy or too wild if you utilize those tips that I shared in the video. If you can't remember, go back, fast forward. Okay, rewind. Let's pull a card for Sunday. How to make the most of Sunday's energy. Knight of Wands. I love it. This is very Sagittarian to me. Good old black stallion in the background there. And she just wants freedom. She wants to feel light. She wants to bang on her drums all day. Give yourself a chance to just let your hair down. The heaviness of the week will start to shift as we get to Sunday. The sun has a really nice, deep conversation with the planet of transformation. So all that scorpionic deep dive, like going down into the heaviness of the feeling, the rebirth starts to happen, that awakening, that revelation. Because Scorpio, it helps us. It helps us step into the next moment, because it's like the old saying, we can't get to where we want to go if we keep doing the same things. I'm really messing up that quote that so many people have said. But it's kind of like, if we're looking for change, if we're looking for growth, we can't expect to get there by doing the same things that we're doing now. It's not helping us. So thank you so much for hanging out with me this long. It's always such a joy to spend time with you on Monday mornings. If you've been able to stick it out with me this long, please drop a heart emoji. Let me know that you're here. And if there's anything that you want more guidance on, let me know. If you want to hear more of something, less of something, this time is for you. I want to give you the tools that you need to make it through the week ahead so that you, again, can really fulfill your heart's dreams and destinies. And until we meet again, and hey, one more time, Body, Mind, Spirit Expo, Cincinnati, Ohio. You can Google it. I'll be booth 312. Stop by for a reading or say hi if you're in the local area. Otherwise, I'll catch you here next week. And until then, remember, trust your vibes and follow your heart. Okay, much love. Thanks, Julie. Have a great week, guys.